So you have talked about selfishness, and these days selfishness is also called as self-love, or maybe it has been transformed to self-love. Do you think that the reason for breaking these relationships, or probably in India also, recent times relationships are breaking at that point where people are more aware, or they are becoming more aware of self-love, or what do you call as selfishness?
Yeah, and this thing about self-love is an interesting one. We
Hmm.
have a notion of something called samskara.
Yeah.
And the question I'd ask everyone to consider, when Sanatanis, Hindus, Sikhs, Buddhists, Jains, everybody who's a member of the Sanatani tree, flowers of
Hmm.
this Sanatani tree, go abroad, they don't study the laws of those countries. They don't study how are relationships being made here. The last 2 or 3 generations have been the most successful generations, even in the West. If you have a look at the contribution and the performance of the Sanatani family in the United Kingdom and the
Hmm.
United States, our children, ourselves, we have the least lack of health. We have the most in terms of security and safety of assets and well-being. We have the highest level of education amongst our children. We have the
Hmm.
lowest divorce rates, and we have the highest contribution to society. Now, isn't
And
that
people.
a pinnacle of society? And the
Hmm.
reason is sanskaras. It's the
Yeah.
value systems that our Sanatani traditions give to us when we are young and when we are children and when we
Hmm.
receive them at a very early age. Now, I would say those sanskaras have proven themselves in
Hmm.
difficult places. The United Kingdom, when I came here in the 60s, I was born in Punjab in a little village and came here in
Okay.
the 60s. I've been here almost 60 years. And the United Kingdom was not a place of pleasantness. It was a hostile place. It was an aggressive place. And
Hmm.
yet, even in hostility, our community has thrived and prospered. And that's because of Sanatani Sanskaras, which were formed over hundreds and hundreds of years. So do an empirical experiment. Sadhana means experiment.
Hmm.
Sadhana is nothing except performing an experiment with your own life. And so each person should actually explore with their own lives and bear the consequences and be responsible for bearing the consequences. I think
Hmm.
what they would find is a patient approach along the basis of Sanatani Sanskaras will actually give them the longest enduring positions of safety, security, and indeed Anand as well as Prem.
So when we talk about endurance, when we talk about safety and security, and especially the term you use, that sanskar is the baseline of Sanatan Dharma. Don't
Yeah.
you think in India, sanskars are vanishing from the relationships? That is the reason maybe that relationships are breaking up, and in the society we are seeing it as a a sort of turmoil, because we are giving a different terms to these relationships. Sometimes we are calling it in a live-in relationship,
Yeah.
or situationships. The new terms are coming up. Are they are there repercussions of probably the when sanskars are vanishing from the society?
When you employ somebody to do decorative work, interior design in your home, it's always worth having a look at the
Hmm.
home that that person has built for themselves.
Hmm.
Now, if we want to follow these
Hmm.
terms and these relationships, it's worth looking at the origin of them. Let's go back
Hmm.
to the source nations and see what they have actually understood and what benefits they have received. It would be foolish to risk one's whole life journey on the basis of ideologies and experimentation without looking at the source of the people who have originated those ideologies. And what you will find is a great deal of suffering. You will find elderly people on their own during their declining years. You will find such an amount of fear and worry amongst people who themselves have had polygamous relationships in their adolescent years. They become incapable of sustaining a long-term relationships. And from our perspective, we say that grihast is actually the highest form of sadhana. You know, a
Yeah.
progression on the adhyatmic journey is unbelievably wonderful and deep in the most challenging of circumstances. And grihastashram is probably where the diamond is polished the most. I remember my grandfather saying to me, he described grihastashram as the pouch in which diamonds are polished by rubbing against each other. And the friction that's caused in that sort of grihast situation results in the most sparkling of human beings. And so people, if they wish to experiment with these ways of living, they're experimenting, and I wouldn't recommend it. It will have a detrimental effect on their bodies, on their minds, and on their hearts. It may be short-term sensory gratification, but in the medium to long term, it will only lead to suffering, fear, and illness as well, mental as well as physical.